You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
So in our recent Diamond Day, today's guest made an announcement that stopped me in my tracks. She's kicking off her 7th decade, not with slowing down, but with launching a brand new business. Jane Lynch's story is nothing short of remarkable. From navigating life as a single mum, to rebuilding after a stroke, to creating wealth and independence through property, renovating an Airbnb. Jane embodies resilience and reinvention. I'm so excited to welcome you, Jane, to the podcast today. Can I ask you first by telling us who is Jane Lynch and what's the journey that's brought you here?
Well, firstly, thank you, Bernadette, for inviting me in today. I'm really, it's not often you get to share your story, sometimes only in job interviews. So it's a new experience for me. I guess my corporate life and my working life began in business and marketing, and I had a really solid career in that, which I absolutely loved. I taught marketing at universities and TAFE colleges, plus working. And then in my early 40s, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and it was attacking my liver. And the doctors told me that within 10 years, I would need a liver transplant. And it sort of stopped me in my tracks because I realised that I needed to change my life and reinvent myself with a health first focus, which in your 40s you don't really expect to have to do. But each morning my daughter would come in, she was only in grade 1 at the time, she'd come in and say to me, "Mummy, please don't die while I'm at school today." So It was an incredible, wake-up call to change my life. And I think that was the first time that I realised just how much power we as individuals have to be able to change our lives and reinvent ourselves in any way that we choose. So, my recovery period, it was pure chance, but I walked into a bookstore one day and there was a doctor there called Dr. Sandra Cabot, who was, she'd written a book called The Liver Cleansing Diet. And I still follow the principles of that diet to continue on throughout my life. So I bought that book, followed those principles, and I've halted that progression of that disease. I'll probably die of old age rather than a liver-related illness. So that was the first time I had to reinvent myself. But during that recovery, I realised what was broken in my life and what wasn't. And sadly, my marriage at the time was broken, so I became a single parent. And knowing that I had to earn a significant amount of money, I went into real estate. So it taught me so much about people, about negotiating, and about property. And from there came my first experience around flipping properties and using properties to drive wealth and security and your future. I was a single parent, so I could see all this happening and I could see all this opportunity, but I didn't really know how I was going to make that happen for me. And so I figured that the first point was that I had to talk to my kids. Now, they were teenagers by this stage, and I was able to sit them down and explain it to them and show them the benefits that as I got older, I would have some security. As they needed help going to university, I would have money there for them. But it meant that we all had to give up something. So I asked them what they would give up. And they decided they'd give up takeaway food and treats after school. And we all decided we would give up buying books. We're a family that reads a lot. So we would only get stuff from the library and we'd make do with that, or we'd borrow books from friends. And that
Can
was
I just jump in there?
Yeah.
I think that's a really it's a point that we need to bring out, because I know that single mums in particular really want, like all mums, want to give their kids the best. And I think sometimes tend to use things to compensate for their situation and have this guilt thing going on that means that they don't want to ask their children to endure any hardship. I don't know whether I've put that the right way, but have you noticed that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a single parent, when you've only got one income, your kids have to miss out on stuff. You have to make hard calls on what you can and can't afford, and how you stretch the budget. But my kids now talk about that as a great learning experience. They are great savers. They're both interested in properties. My daughter renovates homes and loves it. She says it's all those Saturdays that I dragged her around to open houses and all the things that she's learned. So I think sometimes when we're in the midst of it, we're dealing with the age that our kids are at. And sometimes we just need to step back and say, what's this going to look like when they're 20 or 15, 15, 20, 25, and what's my life going to look like when I'm 50, 60, 70? Because we've got to be planning for that while we're in the midst of the doing. And so I think it is something that lots of single parents really struggle with, but there is a way forward.
Yeah, I also noticed that, even I have conversations with women who are in their 50s and 60s and still really don't have a solid financial backing, and yet will give what they have to their kids.
Yeah.
And I try to say to them, the thing your kids want is for you to be stable, financially stable. But I think that it's so ingrained.
Well, one of my fears is being a burden to my kids. I don't want to be a burden through my health, so I take care of that. I don't want to be a burden financially, so I have to take responsibility for that. I keep myself active and keep a circle of friends because I don't want to be a burden and lonely and calling them. And, so it's about thinking about those things, how you look and how it impacts kids later rather than just now. So I agree. It's really hard though. Look, hands up.
Oh, I get it.
Really hard.
Yeah. Well, although I wasn't a single mum, but we were always determined that our kids were going to learn to, pave their own way. Mm-hmm. And now, I've had my daughters say to me, I'm really glad that you didn't, indulge us, that we actually had to, we had to make our own way. Mm-hmm. And because, it's built the skills in them in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great learning, and as parents, that's our role, isn't it, to guide
it
and
is.
teach. So, so after real estate, I went back into the corporate world, and I was in senior management in a manufacturing business, and it was full on. I had lots of direct reports. I was doing lots of company travel, and at the age of 53, I had a minor stroke, and that, as a single parent, wow, that was really scary because how are we going to survive? I lost the ability I could speak, but I couldn't find the words any greater than a one-syllable word, so I was very limited in my communication. And I just had to pivot. I had to find a way to earn some income to support us while I was going through speech therapy. I knew I was going to get better, but I just couldn't. I just realised I couldn't have the stress of the money impacting the health challenge that I was going through. So social media was just starting. This is 2009, and I bet lots of people don't even remember, but Facebook had less than 200,000 users in In Australia. So I went online, I did some workshops, I learnt all that I could about it, and I started a social media and marketing business. In those 6 months, all from my computer. I couldn't talk, but I could type and I could think and I could do. So that business grew, and I had a couple of people working for me, and after 4 years, someone bought that business. One of the staff bought that business from me. And all this time, I'd been flipping properties. To date, I've flipped 16 properties, and I'm looking for my next project. So it's always been there in the background. So when one of my properties in Melbourne sold for a ridiculously record sum, the real estate agent asked me if I would offer advice to other people getting their properties ready for sale. And so began a property styling business, and that continued to grow over the next 6 years. And in 2021, in 2020, my husband got very sick. He had 7 operations in 12 months, and I realised I needed to shift my focus back into the home and be there a little more. So I sold that business and sold that in 2021. And since then, I've been in the coaching space, helping people to grow their businesses. And now I'm about to start a new journey. I've over the past 12 months, I've worked with a lot of women in their 50s and beyond who I see them, they're feeling invisible, they're feeling, not valued in a workplace, or they don't quite know what their next chapter is. They may be empty nesters and suddenly there's not so much to running around for everybody else to do. And they're asking themselves, what now and what's for me? And so my purpose now is to support those women to find their strengths and understand their values and what drives them and what it is they want to create and what they want to leave, or the legacy they want to create, really, in a way, what support they can be giving to their community. So I think throughout all these challenges and things that have happened, I call them my defining moments. They're the times that I could either have given up, or I could look at it and say, how can I grow? What can I learn? What can I do differently? And I think we've all got that in us. I see the potential in everyone. I've always got 1,000 ideas for everybody. And my journey in real estate and my love of property is how I became part of the Diamonds and a Wonder Woman. And honestly, Bernadette, if I'd had the learning and the knowledge that I now have learnt from you and from that amazing group of women, oh my God, I would have made so much more money.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted you to come on is because I think people think that Wonder Woman's about me, but it's, like what I offer. But it's a team effort. And I really, as I said, I noticed this at our last Diamond Day. Just about every woman in that room, or I would say every woman in that room, has an extraordinary story to tell. And those life experiences bring incredible richness to the group. And so having those people like you and your background in that group is, it's a huge benefit, and it's something that you don't find very often. There's lots of things for men in property. There are some things for women, but generally, I think that whether the group does or not, it discriminates. I do think that as an older woman, sometimes going into those groups, you feel like a fish out of water. And so I think it's really important that we have that breadth of age and experience for the others coming along.
I agree. You know, Bernadette, one of the things that I notice about the group, you know, we have a WhatsApp chat group, and there's never a question that goes unanswered in that group. People post up something and there's 2 or 3 responses to that question. So you never feel alone. I think the group move through their renovation projects so much more quickly because they've got that knowledge bank of women there, that it's not them alone, and it's not one person and only one perspective they're getting. It's everybody in there together. So I think that people do their renos quicker. I think, you know, people post up about anything and everything in there, and they always get the support. So I think that's one of the really valuable things. Plus, just finding a group of like-minded individuals. You know, as you get older, whether you're in the business world or not, it's very hard to find sort of networking groups or your tribe or your community of people that have got a common interest to you. And I think that's one of the big valuable things that comes from you know, being part of Wonder Women. The learning that comes out of the 100K renovation course and project, it's the foundation, but then all the extra knowledge and experience that you add on into it, and then other women's support, I think it's gold.
Completely agree. Let's talk about what you're doing with property.
So I've been renovating a beach house that we have, and I finished one, and that's now on Airbnb. I've got another one that I'm in the midst of and almost finished into the landscaping stage. And I have an Airbnb. So I have 2, and I will soon have 3 properties on Airbnb. I do reasonably well. I know there's a lot of conversation around at the moment around how property, or, you know, Airbnb's got too expensive and it's really dropped off and so on. I get quite a lot of repeat visits. I add a lot into my properties. I set the kitchen up as if it was my own kitchen. So, you know, there's slow cookers, there's just everything there so that it's not just the basic 4 saucepans and 4 plates. I want it very much to feel like a home away from home. I have a wonderful cleaning team, so that makes a huge difference. So I get quite a lot of repeat visits, and the one in regional Victoria is in a very, you know, tourist-friendly town, I'll say that, and that makes a difference to it as well. So I'm doing well out of my Airbnbs.
Can I ask, do you have them set up on a website independently of Airbnb?
No, I know a lot of people do that, and I'm toying with that idea. It's the extra work involved that puts me off. Airbnb is a really easy platform to use. I do recognise that the fees and charges coming through Airbnb are significant, and I do take a screenshot of the guests' costs and the breakdown, and I share that with them so that they know how much Airbnb is taking and how much I'm getting. I
think if there's one thing that COVID taught me, that's really important, because I noticed the hosts who had their own websites did a lot better than those that were dependent on Airbnb. So, and of course, you're a marketer, you would understand the principle.
So yes, it is in the planning. I will move it now that I've almost got the 3. Once I get the 3 finished, I figure then a website that covers all 3 will be worth the time and the effort.
Yeah.
So that's the plan there. And as I say, I'm looking for my next project. So I'm looking for my next flip.
Amazing.
I think the market in Victoria is just starting to take off. You know, I'm still, through my property styling days, connected to a lot of real estate agents, and they're things are selling quicker and everybody's talking it up. So I think it's...
Yeah. Well, I know in our meeting yesterday, one of our diamonds has been holding a property for a couple of years because she got caught in the interest rate rises and that just knocked out a market. And she's going to market shortly, and she was surprised how positive the agent was about her potential resale. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Oh, God. I think Melbourne's a little gold mine that's going to explode. It's just when we don't know. But yeah, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so tell us about what sort of shape your new business will take, because I think there will be quite a few women who listen to this podcast who may not necessarily think that that doing projects might be in their DNA, but might be considering a business.
So I think, as we get older, you get pushed down a little bit. You don't get promoted at work, or you get, tagged that, oh, you don't understand the technology and, that sort of stuff. So the first thing is to just discover your strengths and to build some confidence around what it is you have to offer. And it doesn't have to be, some amazing new idea. I had a lady I worked with last year who has actually created a course around teaching people how to sew. So it can be as simple as that to another lady I'm working with at the moment. She works in HR and she wants to be able to offer HR consulting to a particular industry group. So she's creating a side hustle from her workspace. So it's about that, but it's also about your health and what you need to be able to do to support your energy levels. As we get older, our energy changes, whether we're really great in the morning or not so great in the afternoon or however it is, and being able to work around that. So we talk about all that sort of stuff. So it's quite high touch. There's some assessment tools, things that people go through, loads of conversations with me. There's some group coaching where we all go through something together, plus monthly a one-on-one call with me. So first of all, we do the discovery phase, which is all about, as I've described, the finding yourself. The next stage is the designing. So that's where we research the business, we look at the validity of the business, then we create the business, and then we move into the delivery phase, which is all about the marketing of the business. So it's a 5 to 6 month program. And, as I say, it's some people just say to me, well, I just never thought I was going to be able to do this. I just, this, and sometimes their kids are saying to them, wow, Mum, I never thought you'd do that. That's, and they're so proud of their mum. So it's, loads of feel good for me.
Yeah. That's what we all want, though, isn't it? We want our kids to be proud of us. We, like some people seek validation from the people they work with, but as a mother, you want your kids to think you've done okay. And yeah, so I think that's, I love it. And I think I am intrigued at how you could build a digital business when you were recovering and unable to talk. Like most people spend decades getting a digital business up and running. So you obviously have the secret sauce.
A lot of it comes down to putting the right people around you. And I've always seen the potential in people, and I've always supported and applauded that. I don't have to be the brightest person in the room. I don't know everything, for God, and I don't want to know everything, but I want to put really good people around me. And I think by doing that, I've been able to leverage my networks every time I've started something new. And I've been able to go to those people and say, this is the situation I'm in. And if you know of anybody that I could help, then can you point them in my direction? And I find that, if you're good to people, people want to want to help you. So
Yeah.
that's been a big part of how I've managed to do things. And I don't think age or situation needs to define us. I can remember when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, I went in, the doctor said to me, "Oh, this happens to middle-aged women." And, I drove home and that was the main thing playing in my brain. It called me middle-aged.
Oh my God.
And so and it was then I realised I'm not going to be put in a box. I have to live it my way. And, I'm blessed to come from a family of strong individual women. At 86, my mother and another elderly lady drove around Australia in a camper van. So I've got lots to live up to, Bernadette.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah. In fact, you're a very dark horse, Jane. The longer I know you, the more that comes out. So I'm really excited for you in your next venture. I'm excited for you in your next fit as well. And I just want you to let us know if anyone wants to contact you, how do they do that?
So the website's on the way. It'll be notplainjane.com.au. There is an Instagram page _notplainjane. The business is obviously called Not Plain Jane. You'll find that on Facebook. So that would be the best way. And circle back to this or to Bernadette's group. I'm sure there'll be information in there at some stage further down the track.
Beautiful. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I really loved hearing about your experience, and I think a lot of women will love this episode.
Thanks, Bernadette.
What strikes me about Jane is that it's not just about business. It's about courage, reinvention, and proving that it's never too late to write another chapter. For anyone listening who's wondering if they're too late, too tired, or too stuck, Jane's story is living proof that there's always another level of freedom waiting if you're willing to go after it.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.